What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? You ready for that full moon in Libra? I think this is a very active lunation for sure. There's a lot that's going on here, movements that's going on top of this lunation. Within like an hour later, like Venus is going to be stationing direct, and I really think that we're in this sort of kind of cosmic soup right now with all this Pisces energy. Not quite entirely sure where things are going, but I think that things are slowly starting to take form here. I think that the direction that we're going the clarity is coming, and we'll definitely talk about this more here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements. Sun, moon, rising, maybe Venus, wherever. This one's for you. Or if you just want to kick it with Cancer, we enjoy the company. Everyone can benefit from the moon. And I'll do tarot card spreads based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, and when it's going. Boy, of course, it's all them lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, turn my hourglass up, get that started. Let's jump into it. Because yeah, this is a I'm looking at the chart here, and yeah, we got a little bit to talk about stuff here. The Sabian symbol, even your general energy today, where we're we're improving here. But before we jump into that, depending on when you're watching this, happy Jupiter Day. Jupiter is associated with Thursdays, and I find that Jupiter days are really just a great day for learning some new things, because Jupiter is about not just expansion and things, but it's about expanding our worldview and going out there to experience different things, to feel different things, to believe in something, the bigger aspects, the bigger things that are bigger than oneself. I find Jupiter days can be a great time for just philosophizing, but just for sharing information as well, or just learning some new sort of things there, reaffirming yourself. But this is I think, a great time for appreciation, or for appreciating the wonders in life and what enthusiasm that can bring. Because that's what I love about Big Papa. Jupiter can really bring this sense of optimism and, yeah, a quest for something more in life. And really find this sense of meaning. I really think that that's a really empowering energy. And pay attention too, during like maybe Jupiter hours. So you say pay attention if you notice how the mood changes when we get into Jupiter hours, how you're feeling a bit more vivacious, a bit more kind of like, yes. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy a Jupiter day. But another way that I like to work with these planetary days is that I like to think about my relationship with Jupiter. What house and sign do I have Jupiter in? How do I deal with Jupiter transits? What house is it transiting in? Is it aspecting it of my planets? Actually, looking at this chart, I just had Jupiter just separate from my Jupiter. It was forming a sextile there, and I've been expanding with like my Jupiter transit through my friendship house. So I've been working on my friendships, thinking about my future. Obviously, this is a very active time. Jupiter going through this house is hitting up a lot of my Leo placements. Started off with my moon, so, and oh yeah, even trying Saturn at one point. So yeah, this one is, this is usually an active time whenever planets are going through Gemini. So that's something to pay attention to. You can get a lot of useful insight. I work with like my Jupiter return chart as well. That's really fascinating, too, when you look at those kind of planetary charts from that and how that grows. It can yield a lot of very useful information for you, and you show up, I think, in this experience in a different type of way. So just some things to think about. But let's get into the lunar shenanigans, because on the 10th of April, the moon is going to enter into Libra at about 6:18 p.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. And we'll talk about that full moon here in a moment. But when you just think about the energy of Libra, it's really fascinating. They're ruled by the lovely Empress Venus, and they're the cardinal air sign, and they're active or yang in nature. And I think that there is this really, when I think about Libra, there's this power of attraction. They're the initiators of thought. Where it first happens, and so I find that it's like with Libra, there's a strong attractive energy with them being by being ruled by Venus, and there's a contract I feel like Libra has with chaos. With like the changes of the universe and the constant effort that balancing takes. And so I think that the moon in Libra really kind of helps us to tune into how we've been feeling, but how our feelings affect our thoughts and where we initiate from. Because those thoughts and feelings sometimes can be so closely intertwined, especially if you have an air moon. I have a Gemini moon, and that's something that I think about quite a bit, just separating, what I'm thinking from what I'm feeling. And so that might be something too, to kind of do some things to kind of find understand the difference between those two there. But I think even too, the moon in Libra can be just a great way too of expressing the feelings that you're having, maybe doing it through poetry, maybe just doing it in conversation, maybe understanding too. I find that there's a tact that Libra can have. And I enjoy just talking with just like anyone who has any Libra placement, especially Suns and Mercuries. I enjoy that. I enjoy Libra. But I think this could be great too to just talk about what's been going on here, because there's been a lot of kind of nebulous energy. I think that there is, where people are really kind of feeling there's a shift that's happening here collectively. Whether you're following the astrology or not, there's something that's happening. And so I think that conversing about this as well can really help us adjust to this, not just as an individual, but collectively as well. So I think that's a real kind of great power that the moon in Libra can bring as well, bringing that sense of concord to the discordance of life sometimes. But let's talk about the full moon, and I gotta actually have a chart for you because that's going to be happening on a Saturn day, and that's the 12th of April, and the full moon will take place at about 5:23 p.m. Now, the full moon phase is when, let me get my handy dandy drawer here, and that is when the sun and the moon are opposed one another. You got the sun here at 23 degrees and 20 minutes of Aries, and the moon's at the same degrees but in Libra. And when you think about the oppositions, this aspect is usually one where I like to think of it as like kind of expectations versus reality. Usually there's some sort of like external influences, whether it's a situation or a person, that causes you to make some sort of decision. And we're thinking about the decision that in the work that's in the themes that may have been coming up while this moon, we know from the new moon in Aries and what has been coming up for you. Now we're really kind of getting a full picture of this thing. We're really seeing it for what it is. And hopefully the work that you've been doing during this lunation, because the full moon can be a time of celebration where we're just like, yes, I really did this thing. It was fantastic, great work. But if things aren't quite how you pictured them to be, I think that's fine too, because you know what? At least you showed up. You tried this thing, it didn't quite work. We can still make adjustments as we get out of this phase. And even in a broader sense, this is just the beginning of an even longer kind of 2.5 year cycle. And we'll check in and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into that, we get in closer to as we close out this lunation. But I think this is the moon. The full moon is a really great time to just do some evaluation as far as like where things are at. Things are really kind of at its fullest here. And the very interesting thing about this lunation is shortly thereafter, like maybe not even an hour later, Venus is going to be stationed direct, and she's the one who's in charge of where the moon's at right now. She rules that house or that sign of Libra. And so I go into what Venus is stationing direct a lot more on my other channel, Alchemist 8. So if that's something you're curious about, definitely go over there and check that out. There's a link in the description box for that. But some of the base things that I was talking about, especially the Sabian symbol where Venus is stationing, talks about a lot like this catharsis that's happening here. Any sort of things that have been corrupting or been getting in the way of your soul's growth, this can be a great time for purging that and paying attention to, again, where your thoughts have been, what have you been attracting to yourself, the relationships with people, with things, and what adjustments that you can make to bring this stuff into balance here. And it might be something where, again, you're not quite sure where things are are going, or what's being, or what is the meaning of this purpose, but I think it'll make more sense or get more clarity as far as like what is actually trying to form in this when the sun moves into Taurus and we finally get some earth energy, because we've been in a lot of heavy Pisces energy, especially with the planets retrograding back. Mercury is about to move out of here soon, but I mean, you got 3 planets and the North Node that's in Pisces here right now, and on top of that we have Mars that's still in Cancer here. This late degrees of Pisces has this last kind of decade of Pisces and Cancer has been really active here. So, but it's forming trines, when we're talking about Mars in these late degrees. And so we're feeling energized, and maybe it's not quite sure. This is an intuitive time that I'm thinking, a really time to kind of call on that kind of, that inner world, really kind of tuning into yourself, doing through meditation, through journaling, through talking, whatever, maybe therapy, whatever that's looking like for you. Because I don't think that if this has been maybe a bit of a tumultuous time, maybe the waters have been churning a lot more than normal. I don't think that, I never really think that this is something that just happens for nothing. There's always a purpose, and something's developing and strengthening from this. Because let's talk about the Sabian symbol. I like to talk about this for any of the lunations, or any sort of like, for the main lunation points. And this is phase 204 of Libra. And this talks about a butterfly with a third wing on its left side. And, you think about butterflies, they usually are a symbol of metamorphosis that's happening here. And now we've clearly gone through something where a new sort of change is happening, some sort of like adage has happening here with that third one. Butterflies usually got the 2 wings, but now, or 4 wings, but now it's got a third one. Now it's got 5 wings. But I think that there's something here where like there's a growth that's happening. We may not even be aware of that yet, and it's just waiting to be tapped into. Because the keynote for this speaks of the ability to develop, for inner strengthening, new modes of response to basic life situations. And that's what I really think, especially the Saturn being in Pisces over these last year and a half, almost 2 years now, has been teaching us to where we may not be able to control everything around us. We can control our inner world and how we respond to those situations. It's not easy, emotions can be tricky, thoughts can be tricky, and you say things in the moment, but we have to have, Saturn's been teaching us emotional responsibility, while in Pisces. And I think that this can be a great time to just feel more, if on a baseline, just an invitation to feel more at peace with oneself, to feel more in control of oneself again, and to release control of everything else. Just be here, and then that helps you to, okay, now that I got this regulated, this is what I can do. I can focus on this thing. I can focus on this thing. I can focus on this thing. And now that Libra energy is thinking in a different way. It's seeing the opposing forces and responding in kind with an equal force with that. And now we're balancing things out a lot differently here. But I think right now this is more kind of like an intuitive time where we need to develop. I'm even getting like a visual of like the Strength card, where we just need to develop that inner world to be able to respond to these more not appropriately, but more constructively, maybe with these energies that are kind of coming through here. However, this may be looking up for you. You want to look to see where you have Aries and Libra in your chart, because that lunation will give you more of an idea of what's been activated for you. For example, for me, this is just like a real basic one. This lunation will be happening actually pretty close to my Mars placement. The sun is trining my sun, and trining Mars, and the moon is forming a sextile with my Mars placement. I have it at 25 degrees of Leo. And I've been really thinking about how my beliefs have been kind of fueling me, and how I'm taking that into my everyday. And I've even noticed where I'm like kind of seeing like a situation differently. It's still taking form, and I'm like, and that I think is gonna, and that may be what you're feeling right now. It's like you're trying to do something and you're not quite sure, like you got all these ingredients, but it's just like, what is this? What's actually it's trying to take shape. And I'm noticing where it's like I feel myself interacting with just like the earth differently, and kind of connected with people, like not just seeing them as like bodies, but more so just like as like sections of universe interacting with one another. And that really has changed how I've just gone about my day to day. And I'm trying to still figure out what that is trying to lead to. but it's very fascinating. I think that there's a third wing that's a flapping. At least it's trying to strengthen here. So those could be, and I have a Leo rising, so that might be something that resonates with you, just a little something to think about. But and that's not going to be for every Leo rising, but yeah, those are just some things to think about with this lunation here. I think a really great time to develop that strong kind of inner world here. But let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day, because we're flying blind a little bit. We got the hexagram number 4 here, which is blindness. And I have a link for a website that has all of the hexagrams listed. So if that's something you want to check out and you want to meditate more on these lines and just see how they resonate, I invite you to do that. I think you can get some great information of this. But you had your changing line was line 2 for this one, which is an interesting one. It speaks of the cook is blind, auspicious for taking a daughter-in-law. The son will have a family. And like I was saying, that's why I was mentioning about the ingredients. It's like you have all of these things, but you're not sure what you're working with. And I think that when it's talk about the cook being blind, it's dipping into more than just like what you're seeing. You're needing to dip into maybe different type of senses here, possibly even getting into like a more that sixth sense as well, especially with all this water energy that's going on. This is a lot of psychic potency that's going on, and this is auspicious for adding something new to your family. That's interesting that talks about adding a daughter-in-law. When it talks about, there's this third wing that's adding on to this left side as well. Because I think that whatever this undertaking is, this doesn't have to be literally like you're getting married or that you need to get a partner, although that is fascinating considering we're talking about Libra. That might be the case. But I think that this is more so, if this is not a relationship aspect, this is a time to take on the next challenge, whatever your next endeavor is, in that you will have this thing come to completion. But again, you might just not know how you're getting the ingredients together. You know what? This reminds me of, I did something last night where I've been meaning to I wanted to make something. I wanted something kind of sweet, and I didn't have, I was like, okay, well, instead of what I didn't have, I was like, this is what I had. I had like just various ingredients. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take some oatmeal. I'm going to take this banana and put some water and some honey and some various ingredients in here. And I made this like pancake-like thing, and it was delicious. And I had no idea what I was doing. Zero idea. It was just a feeling, and it turned out spectacular. It was exactly better than what I need. I even put a little syrup on the side, put a little cayenne pepper in there. I got real creative with that one. It was bomb. But that's what I think this situation is. Like, when you just allow yourself to feel through something, magic happens. The daughter-in-law shows up, the one that's going to create this family and this lineage, whatever it is, this legacy that you're getting ready to create, or whatever this add-on to your story that you're getting ready to do. That's what I think this blindness is, this hexagram. Oh, and this hexagram, by the way, is mountain over water here. And there's something bigger that's going on, I'm thinking, with that mountain, and the water's like kind of flowing on underneath it. It's kind of going through, I imagine just sort of like these underground sort of tunnels and passages, and it may be something that you might feel a little bit more once we get into Scorpio, what that feeling may really kind of be here. But for this hexagram, I think that, again, this is a great time for taking on this kind of any sort of like bigger endeavors and just trusting your intuition to guide you through this. It may be a time where you have to get a little creative, a little innovative, but luckily that's what Libra is great about. I don't think that gets talked about enough, where, Aquarius, it gets a lot of the innovation, but Gemini and Libra, both are very, I think, innovative signs, just in different ways. I think Libra is a more kind of creative sort of thinker. There's a sophistication that comes with Libra here. But I think this is a time to really kind of trust yourself, trust what you're feeling, listen to spirit, get in touch with that inner oneness. So that's basically what I have for your general energy of the day. I think that can be a great way of feeling very kind of stable, even without that kind of lack of earth energy that we're missing with the classical planets right now there. So just a little something to meditate on. But let's go ahead and get into the tarot now. Actually, let's get some tea first. But just so you're all aware with this one, a couple of things here. These readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And I'm going to talk about different topics that deal with like money matters, legal things, relationships, but this is no by no means professional advice. Talk to your lawyers, your financial advice, your doctors, things along those lines. But I'm going to be pulling 6 cards with the tarot, and since you had a changing line for number 2, I'm going to get a clarifier for the second card here. But yeah, I'll be pulling 6 cards, and the first card is going to deal with any sort of like short-term money matters and things along those lines. So let's see what's going on with the finances here. Nice. Ooh. So you have the 2 of coins here, and I really enjoy this 2 of coins. I'm looking. I always love watching this bear water this pentacle here, and that may be something that you're doing. Maybe you're noticing where. Maybe you've been wanting to be guided to, like, maybe manage your money differently. Maybe you've been feeling this nudge. You've been getting a lot of messages to look into stocks or maybe look into different investments sort of things. You're noticing these fluctuations and you want to be able to respond to these changes. So this could be something where you may be working with someone like a financial advisor, maybe like a stockbroker, someone along those lines to help you manage your money a little bit more. Maybe you find yourself kind of juggling a lot with the 2 of coins right now, and this is we're trying to find this sense of harmony here. And that's I'm actually getting something too with that. If you've been looking for things to help you regulate, where that's I understand that, but I feel like you want to be mindful about having too much dependency on a situation. You want to be able to kind of call on that inner strength as well that we were talking about with that Sabian symbol as well. That's just a little something extra, kind of intuitive message that's coming through there. But with the 2 of this, it's like we're kind of juggling a lot of money matters right now. That might be something where with the emotions, maybe things have gotten out of hand here, maybe just been, maybe the responsibilities have kind of fallen by the wayside. So now we're just getting back to where things are centered again, where we're feeling grounded again. So that might be something to kind of pay attention to. Be mindful of any sort of like impulsive spending is what I'm getting with this 2 of coins here, because I think that in looking for those sort of short-term kind of dopamine hits that can take away from the long-term sort of impact as well. For thinking about can have maybe some negative impacts in the long term there. So that's just another thing that's just kind of coming through with this short-term money matters here. And I'm even getting where maybe you're trying to figure out how to balance even like a couple, maybe you're trying to get like a side business maybe started up here, maybe even trying to turn it into like a main sort of thing. So that might be something where trying to figure out how to make your resources work differently for you. And that might be something where you need to explore, maybe doing more cooking from home, maybe looking where you can save more or where you can free up more resources to allocate them into something else. You know what I mean? So that's something that's really kind of coming through there with that 2 of coins. Now let's get into your second card here, which talks about any sort of like medical matters and things along those lines. Let's see how the body's doing. Ooh, that's what's good. You got the King of Wands here. And this, what? With that sun being in Aries, I really think that this is a time where I'm hopefully that you're feeling fired up. And if not, this could be a great time to look into things that can get you fired up. Maybe this full moon has showed where, I have been doing so much. Maybe you've been hustling a lot, been doing the things, but you haven't been taking care of your passions, your desires, your wants and things, and that can affect your health. That can, when you're feeling deprived in things, you can get into depression, and then you're starting to, then you're neglecting your health. You maybe not eating as well, whatever that can look like. It all ties in together, So I think that this is looking at things that can, because the King of Wands, he's a fiery one, the fiery part of fire with this King of Wands. So yeah, I think that this is looking for something that can spark your interest, that can really fuel you up here, is what I'm getting with there. Need to maybe take some kind of action. And and this could be too just like this action. It doesn't have to be aggressive because I'm even thinking where maybe if this is some sort of like maybe you're convalescing or something like that, just finding different ways of moving the body. Maybe you can look up different if you're having to, maybe you're stuck in bed, maybe you can do some stretches in the bed, something to help to at least give the body some kind of motion there. Or this could be maybe where we're going for walks and things. You don't got to go for miles. Maybe it's just going around your building. Maybe it's going up and down the street. Maybe it's going on, maybe going doing a few laps around the house even, whatever that's looking like. But any sort of thing where you're doing more than what you were doing, I think is always an improvement. And then it just builds on that as well. But let's go ahead and get a clarifier with this King of Wands here. And maybe that's finding someone too. Maybe it's working with some sort of like physical therapist, or maybe someone else who has, how do I want to put this? Someone who maybe like a fiery type, someone like finding like a workout partner, someone who can help keep you motivated and things. Like maybe we meet like a few times a week and we just go for a walk around the block or something like that. That's what I'm kind of getting there as well. But nice. So the King of Wands is clarified by the Four of Wands here. And I'm getting an energy of, that's interesting, of a union that's happening here. Someone that can help you see something through to completion. And I'm getting like, I'm getting a message here too about if this is some sort of like maybe physical therapy or something where you have some sort of exercises to do, or maybe you're just noticing the body is stiff or something like that. I just like, and this doesn't have to be maybe working with someone like a face to face. This could be looking up different people online possibly to help you get to the goals that you're wanting to get to help you reach to kind of reach the milestones that you're wanting to accomplish here with the Four of Wands. But and that's interesting, and I think we'll get more when we get to like the next couple cards. But I'm even just getting like you meeting someone possibly here, and this is not, of course, not going to resonate. So take it as it resonates. But like you can meet someone maybe while you're even out and about trying to do these. I'm not quite sure. That's an interesting one that's coming through. Let's get into your next card here, which will talk about any sort of like legal matters or social affairs that are going on here. So let's see what's going on in that realm. Oh, interesting. All right, so you have the Temperance card here. And you know what? This Temperance is giving me, if this is like some sort of like legal affair, because this is Sagittarius energy here, there's something I'm feeling. It's like trying to stay, because when you think about, like, I'm thinking about the Justice card compared to the Temperance, where the Justice card is sort of like cause and effect, this sort of like external changes and harmony that's happening. The Temperance is more so of an internal balance that we're talking about, which of course is very appropriate for this inner strengthening that we were talking about with the Sabian symbol. But I think there's something here about, one, if this is a legal thing, trying to not let something, I think, get you riled up. Maybe you're feeling like you're wanting to get something, like, I'm not quite like, it's almost like we're trying to rush something along here. Maybe even like settling for something just to get things done. That's a very interesting energy that's coming through there with the Temperance. I also think that there's something here too on the more kind of like a social aspect of it. It feels like there's a need to maybe learn to try to figure out how to balance more of your time versus time with others too. Making sure that there is that sort of, again, that harmony that's going on there. If you've noticed that you've been been a bit of a hermit here, hitting up some friends, whatever that like, or just maybe getting out amongst the crowds and things like that. I think that could be just a very helpful thing to do. But I'm getting an energy too of perspective, like a need maybe from some sort of like external thing that's going to, maybe you're needing to seek some sort of like legal, like again, maybe seeking some sort of legal advice for something here. And this maybe, you know what, maybe this thing is something that has been maybe kind of wearing down. Maybe it's been frying your nerves a little bit with that King of Wands. Maybe that's what that is. It's like you've been trying to get things done, and there's just been a lot on your plate with maybe you're dealing with a legal man. Maybe there's some sort of like court case that's going on. And of course, you got life things that are happening on top of that here. So it's like how to keep all of that things in balance here. That might be something where you may just like, it's just been a lot, and it's like how to find those moments of, to just find those, that inner peace in between here. I know we have, it's like to not get so caught up maybe in the rat race of things, to not feel like you just have to go, like there's always time to just kind of pause for a minute. So that's another thing that's kind of coming through there. But let's get into your next card, and this talks about any sort of like romance or marriage, any sort of marriage matters, things along those lines, relationships and things like that. Oh, interesting. Ooh, very interesting. Got the Knight of Wands here. And you know what? The Knight of Wands, and you even got the King of Wands here. A lot of fire that's coming through here. Just even like Sag, other than this Two of Coins here. And maybe that might be something where you might have been, there's been a lot of repressed energy that's coming through here. Maybe you need to get yourself out, possibly. That might be, again, a need to socialize. If you're single, maybe putting yourself out there, maybe going on dates, maybe going on like a group sort of things, whatever that might be. But if you're in a relationship, I think that there could be this invitation to do something fun, to kind of fire things up a little bit, kind of spice, get spicy a little bit. Maybe it's been sort of like same old things, maybe with the Temperance, we've been a baby just a little bit. But now it's time to, I'm not quite, it's interesting. It's like, and you know what? If you're not looking for like a romantic sort of thing, this is just, I really feel like it's looking for this kind of like fiery people. People like a lot of maybe, again, we're talking specifically, we got Sag out here. It's kind of strong Sag with the Temperance and the King of Wands here. But even Leo energy is coming through with the Knight of Wands. So that might be something too there. Again, maybe hanging out with some fiery type energies there, or someone that embodies that archetype. That sort of like that lust for life in a sense. Someone that can bring some excitement, some oomph to the journey. But and I even got the Knight of Wands. That might be you. Again, like you kind of maybe, it's like maybe you've been wanting to receive that, but maybe you need to go out there and get that. That's just something else that's just kind of coming through there with this as well. But let's get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like immediately pressing affairs. Let's see what's going on in that energy. All right, so you have the Five of Cups here. And, I think with this Five of Cups that maybe there's been, maybe we're dealing with some sort of, if this is like a legal thing, maybe something did just come to a close here. Maybe we're feeling disappointed about the outcome. And that's interesting. I'm even kind of getting drawn to the Temperance as far as like, and we're just trying to find a way to make peace with what's happening here. And that even kind of gets into that Two of Coins here. But there's some sort of loss. There's a lot of emotional upheaval that can come with the Five of Cups, a sense of disappointment and things like that. And maybe we're thinking about the dating pool. Maybe it's something where, again, maybe you've been putting yourself out there, but you haven't been getting the results that you want. And maybe it's doing it in a different type of way here. That might even be something. Maybe the going online isn't doing it, so maybe it's like just going in person and like no expectations, just going out there, just having some fun. Maybe it's taking some friends and then seeing what happens. But I think too with this Five of Cups, where it's like if a situation has happened and it's done. I think that this is just taking the time to process what has happened and what does that mean going forward. How does that I think it's something is changing here, but I think it's not letting it change your perspective so much where you're like denying yourself a thing, like where you say like, oh, maybe you had a breakup and you're like, I'll never date again, things along those lines. I think that that's just something to pay attention to there with the Five of Cups. But let's go ahead and get into your last card here, which is the destiny or the karma of the situation here. So let's see what's going on with that. Nice. So you have the Six of Coins here. And I'm definitely giving with this situation that, when we're thinking about, it's like with Libra, it's like what you put in a situation is what you get back. And as I think the Six of Coins here is, I'm looking at this, how this deer here is up in the mountains. It's like it's seeing something from a different perspective. It's looking back, but it's looking back with the sense of like in a reflex, like this is where I'm leaving from, and this is where I'm going to. This is how I'm going to give myself going forward. This is how I'm going to set myself up for success. I'm like taking these mistakes where, okay, for example, if this was a relationship, what? When I see signs of things that aren't resonating, when someone's, maybe not, I say I have these boundaries and then they keep being crossed. Well, then you're good, deuces. But we're good on that. And I think that can be in really kind of meaning something here. And then in that makes space for those who will respect that, and to kind of come into view there. It's interesting how that always that can balance out, but I think that there needs to be space that's made for that first, is what this Six of Coins is giving me here. And just how we may have been kind of giving ourselves, and not just your like your energy, again, your time, your money, whatever that may be looking like for you. But again, even going back to your general energy, it's like it doesn't. It's like it's not quite sure where things are going, but I think that it's something where, of course, if we're working towards betterment, it's always going to be auspicious. Again, that doesn't say there's not going to be like Five of Cups along the way. There's going to be challenges, of course, but I think that you just learn how to handle those challenges differently, where they don't hit as hard. They may hurt, but it feels like, it's not the end of the world in a sense. Oops. But let's get some advice from Venus. Nice. How lovely. You got the sun here, and what a lovely little end on this. And let's go ahead and switch back over. I'm gonna switch it over, okay? Because when we're working with the sun, this is bringing brightness. This is bringing this sense of clarity. I like that the sun is shining a light on things, and oh, look at that. There's that butterfly. There's that butterfly. You're developing this third wing. You've changed. Something in here has changed, and it's like there's this new energy here. This King of Wands is done doing something a certain way, and now we're going differently. We're balancing things out. We're making more time for our transformation. Again, whatever that looks like for you. It again, it's like I'm getting a feeling, it's like not being sure entirely where something's going. It's like you've made this declaration, you're not quite sure what that means, other than like the very clear like what that's going to produce. But I really think that some clarity is going to come with this. Just like when you take that control, like this is what I want, this is how I want things to, where I see myself changing in this, or how I want to participate in this journey here. I want to spread, or how to expose my life and my sense of self here. So just some things I think to kind of meditate on there. But Yeah, that's all I got for you. So if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, you son. Hit the King of Wands. Hit that bell button to get notified on all these videos each day. And then I'm going to pull for your surprise cards here. But if you want to work with the other celestial bodies, the sun and then the others, in the description box, I was saying you can check out my other channel, Alchemist State, where I do weekly videos that come out every Mercury day. That's a Wednesday, talking about the transits and where they're asked, what signs are and how to work with those energies. And I also have these videos where I'm doing different planets in different signs and different houses, and I have those all set up for a playlist for you. And yeah, I just kind of do just kind of randomly. I have these 12-sided dice. And yeah, Spirit just lets you know what we're pulling. So, and if there's ones that you want me to do that I haven't done yet, or you want me to go a little bit more in depth into some, that definitely leave in the comment section, and I will do that. So, but let's go ahead and get into your surprise cards here. We got 2 of them here, and that's interesting. I actually really like that. You got the sound card here, and you got the water card. And with Libra, I think that there's something here where you really want to pay attention to listen to what you're telling yourself, what you're hearing around you, and how because listen, just because they're, again, everyone around you may be feeling chaotic and feeling these things, you may not be feeling that. You might be feeling as cool as water, just kind of going with the flow, going with this thing. And like water can absorb a lot. And so I think that there's even something to making sure to cleanse your energies regularly. Whatever that looks like for you. Maybe you're taking like a salt bath, or just a regular kind of cleansing bath, or like shower and something, and just like I know you shower anyway, but it's more so like with that. It's that visual of maybe like some sort of like light kind of showering down to kind of cleansing the energies as well. I found like I've been doing these like the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, and that's been a really cleansing, I find, energy for myself personally, on top of just like meditation and things, and work with like other little things. I actually got a bell right over here, so that might be something, again, doing some kind of like sound healing. But I even just like I'm even getting the when you put if you've ever been in just like in a body of water, like in a tub, and you put your head under, like your ears under where the water's covering that, and you can just kind of hear the body doing its thing. There's just something in that, just like tuning into the heartbeat, tuning into the like, okay, everything is fine, everything is grounded, everything is just tuning into that natural sound of things. In a very intuitive energy. I'm looking at the bat here on this bell, and they have that sort of supersonic, that echolocation when they're traveling in the dark here, and that's what it feels like. The cook is blind right now. We're feeling our ways through the darkness of the waters here, but we're gonna come to the light of the sun at some point there. And maybe that sun was a bit blinding. Maybe your eyes are still adjusting to the light that might have been coming into the mix here. That might even be something else that's coming through there as well. So, but I do really feel like a revelation is coming with these energies. Like something, these lunations, I really feel are hitting different. And I think that that's something to tune into. But that's all I got for you. Yeah, I think that's all I got for you there. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon, and I will catch you. Let's see, I guess I can do it with this hand. On the next one. When am I going to catch you?